everyone, welcome to Kavira's Yoga for Farmers and Ranchers class that I do every 2 weeks on Wednesday at noon. My name is Alexis Bonogofsky and I am the Northern New Agrarian Program Coordinator up here in Montana, but I also am a yoga instructor and I've been teaching for about 9 or 10 years now. And one of the things I've found over time is that there's a lot of things that are specific to farmers and ranchers that, in terms of your body and all the things you do every day, and there's a lot of great yoga poses and exercises that can help you just keep your body nimble and strong and flexible throughout your life. So I received a message from one of my friends in Montana who has been having a little bit of trouble getting her foot in the stirrup and getting her leg over the saddle. And so this class is specifically for those of you who ride a lot and want to be able to continue to get up into the saddle without any problem. And I will tell you that it is not inevitable that gets harder. You can do things, some pretty simple exercises that will keep your body strong and flexible enough to keep getting up on your horse no matter how old you are. But it's one of those things that we need to do frequently, exercises we need to do frequently just to keep our muscles strong. So I'm going to talk a little bit about getting up and onto a horse and just the muscles we use and what the areas we need to focus on. So a lot of times we think it's a flexibility issue. So when we step up into the saddle, over time it gets harder and harder, and our mind goes to flexibility, which makes sense. But really the issue is a combination of strength and flexibility. And our hip flexors, so the muscles that allow you to pull your knee in towards your chest and sort of lift, you're standing to lift your leg up to put your foot in the saddle. Those are your hip flexors, not just one muscle, but a combination of muscles. Over time, those just get weaker and weaker. And so it gets harder and harder for us to lift our foot up and lift it up as high as we need to put our foot in the stirrup. So it's more of a strength issue, I believe, than it is a flexibility issue. So we have to keep our hip flexors strong, and we also have to stretch them. Another issue is when we throw our leg over the saddle, what we're doing is we're abducting our leg. So you're opening your leg out to the side, and so the muscle that does that is your gluteus medius. So on the outside here of your hip, that is your abductor. And so when you step into the saddle, your hip flexors need to be strong. When you throw your leg over the saddle, your gluteus medius needs to be strong. There's also flexibility issues within that as well, but it's definitely a combination. So it's not just that you need to stretch more, you actually need to strengthen those muscles to be able to continue to do that. Another thing that happens if you are sitting a lot during the day, either on your horse or in a tractor or in a truck, your hip flexors are shortened. So you're sitting and here's your hip flexors deep in your hip muscles or in your pelvis. And so they're shortened, and your glutes, your strongest muscle, is lengthened and disengaged. And so if you're sitting a lot, everything gets kind of tight in the front and stretched in the back. And so then when you stand up or you go to do something, your hip flexors feel tight and your glutes are not engaging because they've just been kind of hanging out all day, not having to work. And so being able to get up onto your horse is a combination of many different factors that are going around our pelvis and our glutes and our abdominal wall. And so we need to strengthen those areas, and then we need to keep them stretched out. And so that's what we're going to work on a little bit today, is figuring out how we can strengthen our hip flexors, our glutes, our abductor, your gluteus medius, to make it easier to get up on your horse. So we're going to get started just with some breathing. I want you to find a comfortable seated position, and so either cross-legged on the floor, or you can sit on the edge of a chair, anywhere that you feel like you can sit comfortably and sit upright and take deep breaths. So you've heard me say this before if you've watched the other classes in this series, is that a lot of times during the day we chest breathe. So when we inhale, we tend to breathe at the very top of our lungs. And then when we exhale, we tend to breathe just like part of the air out of our lungs. So we never often take full deep breaths. And that's what we want to practice here is when you inhale, I want you to fill up all of your lungs, like all the capacity of your lungs, all the way down to your belly, and feel a 360-degree expansion of your lungs instead of just here in the front top of our lungs. So you can just bring your hands to your knees. And we're going to do 3 really deep breaths together. So you're going to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. So when you're ready, take a deep breath in through your nose, filling up your lungs all the way to the top. Hold it there for a moment. Open your mouth and exhale all of the air out. Inhale through the nose, a deeper breath this time, filling up your lungs all the way to the top. Open your mouth and exhale all of the air out. Last one, inhale through the nose, your deepest breath yet so far. Open your mouth and exhale all of the air out. So that breath, that nice deep breath, I want you to try to continue that throughout the rest of our 40-minute class. Holding air in our lungs has a lot of negative physiological effects. So remember, your first goal today is just to breathe deeply into your lungs and breathe all of the air out. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move our spine in all the ways that it's meant to move. And I've talked about this before in other classes. We want to move forward, back, side to side, and twist. And so we'll start with our hands on our knees. You can do this in your seated position on a chair as well. And we're just going to move through a couple cat-cows using our breath. So I want you to just take an inhale through your nose. And on your exhale, round your spine backwards, bringing your chin to your chest. And then on your inhale, bring your chest forward. Roll your shoulders back and gently look up. And then exhale around. Inhale, look up. Chest forward, shoulders back. Just a gentle look up towards the ceiling, and then exhale and round. So just do a couple more of these at your own pace with your breath. Just remember you're inhaling your chest forward. Sorry about that. Exhaling your spine backward. And so you hear me talk about this all the time in these classes, but our spine is meant to move in all the ways. So it's very important that every day you move your spine in all the ways that it can move. Because it is very common that we just kind of do that forward hunching, and so our spine gets sort of locked in that, shoulders forward, our chest muscles then get contracted and shortened, and then our back muscles get elongated, and this is kind of how we are, because we always do that picking up motion, leaning forward over desks, driving, even on our horse. So just remember that you also have to take back bends. You also have to push your chest forward and look back, roll your shoulders back, and feel the opening in the front of your chest. Okay, so done a couple of those cat-cows, just shake it out. The next thing we're going to do is a lateral flexion of your spine. So the spine also moves side to side. And we're going to try to keep a twist out of this. We want it to be We want our shoulders square and our hips square. So take your right hand out to the side. You can also do this on your chair. Inhale, it's kind of backwards, so take your left hand up to the side, right arm up towards the ceiling, and then just gently take a side bend. Now often your left sit bone wants to or your right sit bone wants to pop up off the ground. I want you to see if you can keep it pressed into the floor by pressing your left hand into the floor and just sort of push your sit bone into the ground. And then you can take as deep of a side bend as you would like, but just make sure that you're not dumping your shoulder forward, that your shoulder is moving back and you're really elongating the right side of your body. And slowly, carefully come back up. Right hand up to the side. Left arm stretches up towards the ceiling. Exhale, lateral flexion of your spine. Again, we want our left sit bone pressed into the floor so you can push into the floor with your right hand. Just kind of press your sit bone down, keeping your left shoulder open and not dumping forward. Maybe straighten your left arm a little bit more. And slowly come back up. All right, so we did a forward flexion, backward flexion, side flexion. Now we're going to twist our spine. So get your left hand to your right knee, right hand behind you on the floor. So on your inhales, you are waking up your nervous system. On your exhales, you are relaxing your nervous system. So how we use our breath here is we inhale and we lift and lengthen our spine. And on your exhale, that's when you take your twist. So use your breath with your movements. And you don't have to jerk yourself back. Don't overdo it. Just a gentle twist is good enough. And slowly come back to your center. Bring your right hand to your left knee, left hand on the floor behind you. So we inhale and we lengthen, and then we exhale and we twist. And don't feel like you need to jerk your head over your shoulder or anything. Just if there's ever any pain or anything associated with whatever movement you're doing, then just slowly back out of the posture. All right, slowly come back to the center. Okay, now we're just gonna walk our hands forward. You can, if you're sitting on a chair, remember you can just round forward over your legs if you're not sitting on the floor. But if you are, you can just kind of walk your hands forward on the floor and just let your head hang heavy. And slowly come back up. All right, so we moved our spine in all the ways, so I want you to try to do that every day. It only takes 5 or 6 minutes to do it. So front, back, side, and twist. So right when you wake up in the morning, just nice, gentle movements of your spine is gonna do wonders. And now we're gonna go into our hip flexors, because this is when you step up into your stirrup, you are pulling your knee up, and your hip flexors are what's being recruited to hold your leg up. And so, you know, we have to sometimes really get our foot up there. And we think that's tightness, that feeling that when we can't get it up, we think it's tightness, but it's actually weakness in our hips. And so strengthening your hip flexors, if you ask any of my students, it's not fun, but it must be done. And so we do the things that must be done to stay healthy, and over time you will see a huge difference in your body and your movement and your ability to kind of stay mobile. And so it's something that when you're doing it, it can, especially if it's been a while since you've worked your hip flexors, you're gonna feel it right away. And that is not tightness, that is weakness that you're gonna feel. And so when we're doing these exercises, just do what you can. And then when you feel things start to cramp up or something, just take a break, rub it out, and then rejoin. And you can always replay this video, and over time, you'll be able to do the exercises longer and longer. Okay, so if you are able to get on the floor here, and you can bend your right leg just so that it's comfortable, and then your left leg is gonna be straight. Let's scoot back a little bit. So the first thing we're gonna do is you can bring your hands behind you, and all I want you to do is slide your heel towards your body so that your knee comes towards your chest. And now what I don't want to happen is I don't want you to round too much into your spine. I want you to try to keep a lift and length in your spine as you slide your heel back and forth. And this doesn't, like if someone walked into the room and saw you doing this, they would probably think it doesn't seem like much. But over time with repetition, you're gonna feel, I can already feel it in my hip flexors, so hopefully you can too. And so you're just sliding your heel towards your body and trying to bring your knee in as close to your chest as you can. You're even gonna feel your abdominal wall engaged too, because your abdominal wall is stabilizing you. Okay, so keep doing that. That's step one. If you are feeling like you want a little bit more, you can hover your foot and pull your knee in. See, this is a lot. I mean, and I do this all the time, and I can feel it in my hip flexors right now. So you're just straightening your leg, hovering it, and pulling your knee towards your chest. And just do what you can. Remember, if you feel like it starts to cramp up, you just take a break, rub it out, and then if you can do a couple more, great. If that's enough for you today, that's fine too. Just make sure you try to do this every day if possible, but at least a couple times a week. Okay, woo. All right, relax your leg. I'm gonna rub mine out because that's a lot. Okay, we're gonna switch sides. So you're gonna bend your left leg and your right leg is gonna be straight out. Hands behind you. Remember, we want a lift in our spine, so we're trying not to round everything. We're trying to keep a lift here. So step one, heel just slides towards your body, bringing your knee close to your chest. Okay, step two, for those of you that want a little bit more, you hover your leg and pull your knee in, and then straighten your leg. Woo! I taught a class yesterday, and we did a lot of hip flexor stuff, so mine are a little fatigued right now. I can already feel it. And you can tell that feeling that you're getting right now from working your hip flexors. You can see how easily it would be to mistake that feeling for tightness, right? So it makes sense that we think all of our problems are flexibility, when actually a lot of our problems are strength oriented. All right, and release, and rub it out if you need to. Okay, so we're gonna add to that for this next exercise. And remember, you don't have to do everything today. This is something that you can watch over time. My biggest hope for you is that you just learn these exercises and you understand the muscles that we're using so that you can do them on your own at any point. So we're gonna add to that. So I've talked about our hip flexors, pulling your knee in, and then also throwing your leg over the saddle is the abduction. So abduction of your leg, which means your gluteus medius right here. So this exercise is going to take on both of those. So we're going to do the same thing. You can bend your right leg. Your left leg is straight. You pull your knee in. See if you can hover your heel and then open your leg out to the side. Now, don't worry about how far it goes. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're trying to engage the right muscles. So then you straighten your leg. It could be sliding on the carpet. Pull your knee in. And remember, you can keep your heel on the carpet here. You don't have to hover it right away. So straighten your leg, pull your knee in, abduct to the outside, hold it, pull your knee in, straighten. So your quad is also firing right here. Quad, hip flexors, gluteus medius. So remember, take breaks when you need to. This can be a lot for your body, especially if you haven't ever sort of targeted these muscles before. And the coordination is also another thing. So if you're feeling like you're uncoordinated or you're like, how am I moving? It's totally normal. And release. So when you feel that confusion with coordination, that what's happening is your frontal cortex is sort of taking over and trying to figure out how to move, and that's when we have an opening to retrain our body. And so if you feel frustrated, that's actually good. That's an opening for you to learn. And so never feel like it's not something you can do. It's just our body takes a while and our nervous system takes a while to learn new things. And so just give yourself that leeway that sometimes these new movements take a while to learn. Okay, so now we're gonna bend our left leg, straighten your right. Okay, so again, you can keep your heel on the floor or you can hover depending on where you're at. Hands behind you. You pull your knee in, abduct to the outside, knee back to the center, straighten your leg. Knee in, open up, back, straighten. And remember, your heel can be on the ground this whole time, even when you abduct. You don't have to keep your leg hovered. My dog wants food. She's decided she hasn't had enough breakfast. And remember, trying to keep your spine in a neutral position. Try not to round it too much. Oh, it's a lot and it's not fun, you know? But it is something that must be done. All right, everyone, nice job, and slowly release. Just kind of straighten your legs out, sit up nice and tall. Forward fold. If your hamstrings and lower back are super tight, this doesn't always feel great, so I just want you to lean forward just gently. Another thing we need to realize about our nervous system is that sometimes it can overreact. And so tightness sometimes is your sensory nerves just kind of sending signals to your brain. It's like, don't go further, don't go further. And so what we need to do is retrain our nervous system. So when you feel a stretch, don't go too far so that it hurts, obviously. You want to find that point where you're feeling a nice stretch, and then breathe. So remember your breath. Your exhale is when you calm your nervous system down. So when you are stretching, you find that point where you're like, things are pretty tight, and then you just take that deep breath that we started with at the beginning of class. So you inhale, and then exhale, and maybe you move a little bit further, but never go to the point where something hurts. That's not the point of stretching. And over time, you'll calm your nervous system down, and you might be able to go just a little bit further into your stretches. All right, and release. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna work on our hip mobility and strengthening. And this is just kind of our range of motion in our hips. And some of you, this may not be possible right now, or the entire movement may not be possible, and that's okay. It's something that we just work towards. So what I want you to do is bend your left knee so that it's in front of you, and then bring your right leg behind you. And so you're kind of sitting in this, you've got like triangle shapes in your legs. And you can, if this isn't gonna work for any reason, tight hips, then you can sit on a pillow or something a little bit higher here under your left glute. So I want you to bring your left hand out to the side. So you're actually gonna lean over, your weight is gonna come over to the side. And what I always tell my students is when we do something and your like body isn't moving, when you try to move something and it's not working, just thinking about doing it is also very important, because you're starting to train your nervous system that, yes, one day I want to lift my knee up off the floor. So that's what we're going to try to do here. So I want you to bring your weight over to the left, and I want you to see if you can hover your right knee off the floor. And then drop it down. And then lift up. Now the trick here when you are doing this is not to throw yourself over to the side just to get your leg to come up. We're trying to engage your gluteus medius to lift your knee up. So remember, this is the motion that we need to throw our leg, not entirely exactly it, but the muscle we need to develop to be able to throw our leg over the saddle. If you feel like you can hover your right knee, I want you to see if you can straighten your right leg out to the side. And then bend your knee, and then straighten your leg out. Oh man, this is a lot, I know. And if straightening your leg isn't working today, you're just gonna see if you can keep lifting your knee off the floor. And try to keep your right foot flexed and you're kicking through your heel. All right, release. Okay, we're gonna switch. So bend your right knee in front, left leg behind you. So we're just kind of in a shape with two triangles. And remember, if this isn't gonna work, you can have your right glute on something that's higher, like a block or firm pillow or something that can get you a little bit lifted. So bring your right hand out to the side. This class might have to be like a 3-part class because we're just not going to get through everything. Okay, so your weight comes over to the right. See if you can hover your left knee and then drop it back down without rocking too much in your upper body. And I will let you know that when I first started doing this, it was so hard to do. Like I would look at my knee and I'm like, well, it's not coming off the floor. And that's totally normal. Okay, if you wanted to add to this exercise, you would hover your knee and then kick your leg out, bend your knee, relax it down. And if you want to take that full relaxation, you do one, relax the muscle, rub it out, and then do it again, kick out. And remember, you can only start from where you are. So just know that wherever you're at, you can always get stronger, you can always get more flexible, and it's not inevitable that we get weaker or less flexible over time. It's just we kind of have to focus our efforts. And for me, it's important to understand why I'm doing something, which is why I explain what muscles we're using and why we're using them. Because if someone just said, do this, I wouldn't do it. But if I know why I'm doing it and how it's going to help me, it's a lot easier. Okay, and release. So remember, you just do as many as you can. Maybe that's only 1 or 2. And then the next day you do 3, and so on and so forth. We're gonna go back to the other side again for one more mobility exercise. So bend your left knee in front. Your right knee is bent to the side. Left hand out to the side. So we hover our knee And then we see if we can bring our heel forward and tap your right heel to your left. And then come back to a hover and relax down. So we lift up, tap your heels together, come back to the side and down. So just at your own pace, taking breaks when you need to. So we're really trying to find the mobility in our hip, and we're trying not to sway around too much with our upper body. And remember, you might get to the point where you're like, I can't get my heel past this point, and that's okay. So just work on that movement, and over time you will be able to get further and further. And we all have different bodies, different injuries, different histories, and so how it looks for me may not be how it looks for you, and that's, again, totally fine. Okay, and relax. We're gonna switch again here. So left knee bent in front, right leg bent in front, left knee out to the side. Bring your weight over a little bit to the right. We hover our left knee, and then we see if we can try to bring our left heel to our right heel. And then bring your leg out to the side. And then tap your heels and come down. Who knew this could be so much work, right? All of these muscles around our pelvis that really don't get a lot of work can help us so much, can help your lower back. Because if you think about it, you only have 5 vertebrae attaching your upper skeletal structure to your lower skeletal structure. So those 5 vertebrae need all the help they can get. And relax. And so we need to get our glutes strong, all 3 components of our glutes, gluteus maximus, medius, and minimus. We need to strengthen our abdominal wall, and we need to strengthen our hip flexors to protect our lower back. Okay, so your glutes should be pretty tired from all the abducting we've been doing, and your hip flexors, most likely just from that one exercise, are a little fatigued. So now we're gonna stretch a little bit. And I want you to, so depending on how your knees are, some of this stuff might not work, and so just do what you can. We're gonna bend our right knee so it's in front of us, and then try to bring your left leg on top of your right leg. Now, sometimes we can get our knees stacked, sometimes we can't. Sometimes this doesn't work at all. And that's okay, but just do what you can, just see if you can get your left leg over your right. And then from here, just bring your upper body down over your legs as far as you would like to go. And maybe you move a little bit in this pose. So I can really feel that in my left glute from the work we just did and now stretching it. And slowly come back up. And if this is just not something that your legs are gonna do, just bring the soles of your feet together and grab onto your feet and pull your upper body down. So there's always that option. Okay, next thing we're gonna do, if you are joining me with this first one, is now we're bending our left knee and bringing your right leg on top of your left. And my, right now I'm feeling like my hips are pretty tight, so my knees aren't gonna stack on top of each other, and that's okay. So just going to the point where you feel comfortable, and then you can just gently bend or bring your upper body down over your legs. And this is enough for me today because my glutes are super tired from teaching this week, and even the stuff that we just did, I notice it. And so don't overdo it. That is never good. Hula, come here. Hula. This is hula. Hula. And slowly release. All right, now all of us are going to bring the soles of our feet together, and you can grab onto your feet with your hands. Hula. And then just gently bend your elbows down. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this, and you might want to do both of them. But you can keep your chest forward and your spine long, and you're going to get more into your hips. Or you can tuck your chin to your chest and try to aim your forehead to your feet. And that's going to round your spine quite a bit when you do that. So you can see that my spine is really rounded as I aim my head to my feet. But when I keep my chest forward, my spine is longer, and I'm getting more into stretching my hips and less into stretching my spine. So you just pick what feels best for you. Sit. Hula. Sit. Lay down. Good girl. The best thing about doing yoga with dogs is that they have no idea why you're doing what you're doing, so they just want to hang out with you. Okay, good girl. All right, and slowly come out. I'm going to check the time real quick because I have no idea what time it is. All right, we're getting close to the end, and I didn't cover even remotely half of what I was going to cover. So what we'll do is we'll turn this into a series for getting up on your horse, and so maybe 2 more classes, I'm thinking. But what we did today was such a great way to start. So strengthening your hip flexors and stretching your hips as well. So we did hip flexors, abductor, and maybe next time we're going to do a little bit more hip flexor work that we can kind of build off that. And so definitely 2 Wednesdays from now, come back to this class or replay it. And then we will just build each time off what we've done. So for the next 2 weeks, I want you guys to work on those exercises that we did. So strengthening your hip flexors. If you just did this 5 minutes a day, just sliding your heel in towards your chest, that would make a huge difference. And so remember, we slide in and we open and close and slide. In, open, just a very simple movement that can go a long way to helping you gain the strength you need to keep lifting your foot up as high as you can. And so next time we will do this standing, in a standing position. It's a little bit different exercise, but just as important, because when we're standing, it's going to help us with our balance. One more thing before I go, because I could talk about this forever. Your abductor, so when we abduct our leg, you're using your gluteus medius here. But that muscle is also important for balancing. So when you are standing on one leg, to lift your foot up into the saddle, your abductor on the standing leg is what is keeping you stable. That is your stabilizer muscle. And so when we strengthen our abductor, we're not only strengthening our ability to open our leg out to the side, we are strengthening our ability to balance on one leg. And so anytime you're walking upstairs, stepping up into a tractor, stepping up, whoops, that's my timer. Sorry about that. Stepping up into a stirrup or anything like that, you are using your abductor to stabilize yourself. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I will see you in 2 weeks on Wednesday. In 2 weeks on Wednesday at noon on Kavira's Facebook page. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Namaste.